today I have a brand new 2020 Tesla Model X. So this video is part one of a three-part series. This one, I'm going to review this Model X and show you everything there is to know outside, inside, and give you driving impressions. Now part two, I'm going to focus just on this infotainment and all the features and settings and gadgets that you'll get within it. And part three, that's going to be night driving. That's something new I haven't done before, but I know a lot of you guys are interested in night driving to see how this Model X is at night. And I'm going to give you more thoughts about driving impressions and overall impressions of the Model X. So if you're in the market for a Tesla or you're in the market for a Model X, then this video and part two and part three are ones that you don't want to miss. Stay tuned.
Starting with the outside, the Model X has the same look as the rest of the Tesla family. The front design is sleek and round and has a very small grille in the middle. Unlike other manufacturers that keep adding on bigger and bigger and bigger grills, Tesla went the opposite route. The headlights and fog lights are completely LED. Moving on to the side, it's hard to describe what this profile resembles. It's kind of like a cross between an SUV and a minivan and a sports car. The roof is very round and slopes down significantly in the rear. The chrome handles are electronic and flush to the body and matches the chrome window surrounds. Now the wheels you see here are standard 20-inch wheels, which doesn't look very big on this massive SUV. However, you can opt for 22-inch Onyx wheels, which I think looks perfect. The back of the Model X looks like a Model S, but raised up by several feet. It's wide with smoked LED taillights. And with the 2020 models, which refreshed sometime in 2019, the range badge on the back is gone. All it says now is dual motors. Every door on the Tesla is motorized, including drivers, passengers, rear Falcon doors, and the trunk. The front trunk does electronically pop open, but doesn't close by itself. Since Teslas are all electric, there is a hidden charging port. You can charge your Tesla at home with a Tesla wall charger, which Tesla recommends is 60 amp breaker and 220 volt power, or you could go to a Tesla supercharger station.
So let me show you how you would go about charging your Tesla Model X or any models. So all you have to do is pull this out, press the button, it automatically opens. Somehow Teslas just know it's next to a supercharger, and then there you go, you hear it lock. It actually locks in so you can't pull it out anymore. So now you see it's green and it's good to go. In terms of supercharger stations, there's different variants. There's V1, V2, V3. So V3 is the one that's coming out. I guess in some states there's already V3 and they charge really quickly. V2, like this one I'm at, probably in about 30 minutes you could get anywhere from 60 to 80% charge, which is quite a lot. Now V1's a little bit lower, and of course the V3 is even faster than that. So it just really depends on what type of station you arrive at. But Tesla kind of spaced it out. They put all these supercharger stations around busy shopping areas, so you can go to a restaurant, you could go shop. It's not usually in the middle of nowhere, so that's the good thing.
Inside the trunk, you can opt for 6 or 7 seat interior, which gives you a set of third row seats. With the third row up, there's still a good amount of room. On the side, there's a 12V outlet, and underneath the bottom cover, you have a lot of hidden storage. And in case this wasn't enough, you can store in front. There is a front trunk as well. Now, folding down the third row took me 10 minutes to figure out, and that's only after I watched a YouTube video on how to do so. There are buttons that electronically fold it down, however, they aren't marked anywhere. You just have to know where they are. And folding them up requires you to press the button as well, which can't be reached from the rear. Getting in the second row is a real treat as you watch the Falcon doors open up. Entry inside is very easy, and on this 7-seat interior, you have a bench seat setup. Of course, you can opt for 6-seat interior with captain chairs, however, they cost $3,000 more than a 7-seat option, which is already $3,500 more than a 5-seat option. As for amenities, you have 2 pairs of vents, 2 USB ports, and 2 cup holders. As for space, I'm 5 feet 10, and with the front seats all the way back, I have about 3 to 4 inches and plenty of headroom with the Falcon doors closed. The seats do slide forward and backwards. Getting in the third row is very difficult for adults. The seats slide up, however, the wheel well gets in the way. And once you're back there, there's very little legroom or headroom. This is really best reserved for children or extreme emergencies. Up front, the Tesla cabin is very minimalistic with a large 17-inch infotainment screen and a large digital gauge cluster. The windshield is massive and goes above your head. Provided sunshades does nothing at blocking the sunlight out. The steering wheel itself is very thick but feels pretty good, and there isn't a lot of buttons on it. On the right, you have voice control and menu control, and on the left is media control. There are 2 scroll buttons on either side that can be used to select features within the gauge cluster. I'll get to that in a little bit. Right side behind the steering wheel, you have the stalk for the gear selector. On the left, you have one for the wipers and turning. Underneath that, you have the Autopilot controls. And behind that, you have the power, tilt, and telescopic controls for the steering wheel. Underneath the screen, you have an empty tray for things. Below that, you have space for cup holders, which, interesting enough, you can adjust manually. And behind that, you have 2 USB ports and a 12V outlet. In case you're wondering, that USB stick is used for Sentry mode, which records the outside of your Tesla in case of trouble or emergencies. Underneath the armrest, you have 2 more cup holders. The infotainment screen is a tech geek's wet dream. You can control pretty much every aspect of your Tesla, including opening and closing your doors, adjusting your suspension and steering, lights, autopilot, safety feature, climate control, and much more. Tesla uses Google Maps for navigation, but with extra features such as locating supercharger stations and showing you how many spots are available. And Tesla has information that you'll want to know about, such as what the charge will be by the time you get to a supercharger station. And for long distance trips, Tesla will create a route that ensures that you hit the right superchargers on the way while minimizing time. This infotainment screen has so much information and there's so much to show that I have to create another video just to showcase it all. So if you're interested in part 2 of my Model X review, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Now moving on to the gauge cluster, it is one large screen and the graphics and interface is really easy to understand. On the left and right side, you can configure however you want. You can display things such as media, TPMS, range, and other things. And you can control it through the scroll buttons on the steering wheel. In the middle, it displays more information about your surroundings once you start driving. It's also the main source of your safety warnings. By the way, once you get in, there is no engine start button. To start, simply step on the brake pedal and the Tesla is ready to go. That is, if it can detect the key or your mobile app.
All right, it's time to go for a drive. Let's see how this Model X is on the roads. If you have the radio off like I do right now, it is very, very quiet. Now I do hear some road noise and some just overall, I guess, noise in the cabin. Not so much wind noise, just noise. So I'll see how that is once I get up to speed, but I do notice that. But that could be because I'm not used to driving such a quiet car. The regenerative braking could definitely be felt. Like normal cars, you know how you take your foot off the gas, you know, the car's kind of rolling, right? That feeling, just like with this, is different. The regenerative braking is doing its thing, trying to recover energy, and you could feel the car slow down much quicker. Now, in the settings I showed you guys, there are 2 settings. You can do regular or low. So if you didn't like that feeling, you can tune it down a little bit, but it is something you're gonna have to get used to in here. As for steering and steering feel, right now in the menu I'm looking, I have it in comfort mode, and you have standard and sport. But even in comfort mode, I feel like there's a good weight to it. It's a weird, vague, electronic weight to it, but there is a weight to it. It doesn't feel very soft. But steering wheel itself, I like it. It's actually really thick. Makes you feel like you're driving a sports car. It's really thick. The 10 and 2 spot is also thicker, really well bolstered, and overall leather feel is good. Now, visibility is really, really good and awesome in some places and kind of lacking in some places. Starting with the windshield, this is enormous, right? The windshield goes all the way up above my head, so it gives you that full, like, outdoor kind of vibe, right? Like you get a full view of what's above you, what's around you. Same thing with the windows around you, right? But that's where it starts decreasing. The second row window starts smushing down quite a bit, so the blind spot back there, you notice it. You notice it. Rear window also, because of the way it's set up, how slanted it is, the rear window is kind of squished, and the two headrests from the third row definitely does get in your way. It's not bad, but it's not the greatest either. So visibility kind of mixed. Up front, fantastic, but once you start moving back, it gets a little bit worse and worse. So now that I'm on this freeway going a little bit quicker, about 60 miles per hour, the noise situation got a little bit worse. Like road noise, it could be the tires, but I do hear quite a bit of road noise. Still no wind noise, but it is loud in here. Cars passing by, I do hear quite a bit. Of course, the radio is off, but compared to some of the other cars I've been reviewing, especially the luxury cars, they're much quieter than this. Seats very sporty. I could definitely feel the bolsters in my back, almost to a point where I feel like it's a little bit too narrow. If you have a really wide back or you're a larger person, this might feel a bit uncomfortable. So, but outside of that, I think this is a good seat, very comfortable. It's holding me in. I don't slide around on it. I know a lot of you guys watching this want to hear about the Autopilot. So this is equipped with Autopilot, but not the full autonomous driving Autopilot, which basically will get you anywhere you want. This one, however, is still very good. This Autopilot will steer for you. It will use its radar guided cruise control to keep you within a certain distance from the car ahead of you, and it'll do all that good stuff. So within the Autopilot menu system, you could select the speed limit to follow, whether or not you want to follow the exact speed limit, or there's a little bit of leeway offset to go a little bit quicker or under. You could also set a max limit that you could drive at. In terms of keeping me within the lanes, Autopilot on this Model X is the best I've ever tested. I've tested ones in Lexus and Volvo and Honda and Nissan, right? And they have good systems that work most of the time as long as it can read the lanes. This one is by far the best at keeping me in the lanes, feeling, like I'm not going to crash any second. All right, I still have Autopilot on. Look at that. It's taking this off ramp perfectly. I'm within the lanes. The Model X slowed down. Look at it. This is pretty crazy. Look at that. No hands. There you go. No fuss. I mean, there's so much torque. I mean, anytime you want to accelerate, it's just so like addictive. Like you get addicted to that instant torque. You don't have to wait for the transmission to downshift. You're just off. And it's really, really enjoyable. Now that steering is in sport, I do feel like it's a little bit firmer, a little more artificial weight that I mentioned before. It's pretty good in precision. There's still a slight play like this, as you can see. Just slight, very slight. Outside of that, the Tesla starts moving, so I do think that sport steering, you will feel it a little bit. Adds a little bit more weight to it, so I think some of you guys enjoy that. Okay, that was way beyond 60. Oh, okay. For a midsize SUV, or full-size midsize, You're not gonna find an SUV faster than this. Maybe, you know, of course the performance Model X will be faster, but it's gonna be really hard pressed unless you're talking about a very high-end AMG or M series. Nothing's gonna outperform this. It's really, really quick. Really quick. This freeway that I usually take on my way back home is pretty bumpy, and I've tested several cars on this freeway. There's a lot of dips, imperfections, and just stuff that is not good on the car's suspension. So let's see how it is. I have the suspension set up in sport right now, so it's not in comfort. And let's see how it is. I gotta say, it's not too bad. A lot of the SUVs I test is roughly the same, right? And this is in sport mode, so I'd say this is okay. You're still gonna feel it, but I mean, you guys can see the roads. This road is pretty bad, but you know, you can feel some rattles and stuff like that. But I still feel like the suspension is doing a good job at what it can, at adapting to these and trying to soak it up. So, not bad. It's funny that you get these sunshades up here, right? They're like 3 inches thick. They kind of open up, but it's not going to block this 5-foot windshield above you. It just seems like it's really pointless, but it's there. The graphical interface to this gauge cluster is probably the most enjoyable and most modern implementations I've seen, right? Of course, Audi and Volkswagen, they have their digital cockpit, you know, Volvo and others, they have their own implementation, right, where it's like a full screen to replace the gauge cluster. The one in here just looks good, especially the three, kind of like the bird's eye navigation. It kind of like blends into the middle, right? Everything kind of just blends in and looks modern, and I really like this setup.
As for price and trim levels, you have the long range and the performance. Something gimmicky that Tesla does on their website is show you a price that includes potential gas savings, which is actually not the real price. With it removed, the long range base starts under $85,000, while the performance starts under $105,000. The long range with its upgraded front motor in the 2020 model now has 328 mile range and 0 to 60 times of 4.4 seconds, which is really quick. Now the performance gets 305 mile range, a slightly higher top speed, and 0 to 60 times of 2.7 seconds, which is hypercar type performance. After you select your trim, you could opt for different wheels, different seat configuration, and lastly, you could choose if you want full self-driving capability. Lastly, let's look at the good and bad to this brand new Model X. Starting with the good, there's no gas needed. It is a full electric SUV. It has lightning quick acceleration. There's automatic doors everywhere. And the Autopilot, the semi-autonomous driving, is amazing. The Model X also has a fantastic digital gauge cluster with infotainment system. And lastly, it has very comfortable seats and you have a good driving position. As for the bad, there are a few things as well. There's way too much noise in the cabin from the outside. The third row is an afterthought in terms of comfort and utility. The 6-seat and 7-seat options are very pricey. There is planning needed with range and charging, especially in cold weather. There's no ventilated seats or 360 view system. And finally, the Model X has an expensive price tag and a home charger does need special installation. I'm giving the brand new 2020 Tesla Model X a score of 102. And if you want to see how this compares with others in this class, then check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you stay tuned for my part 2 and part 3 of my Model X review that will be coming out soon.